The silver shortage is definitely one of the most controversial things to talk about in the world of precious metals. I could go back and forth with you all day talking about below ground supply versus the above ground supply versus global demand and when we're going to run out of it. Or we could look at mining supply, the shortages. We can look at the Silver Institute's data. We can look at recycling, looking at forecasting the next 10 years of how much we're going to need and how much we can produce if we can keep up with that. We can look at the COMEX numbers and see why people are saying that there actually is more silver out there. We could look at the US Mint running out of silver. We could do all that all day back and forth. There is no for sure fact to tell how much, but what we do have is information. And I look at this information and apply it to what I know. Most people that debate me, they go off theory. They're speculating, assuming. When I'm talking about the silver shortage, I'm talking about data that comes out. I look at the Silver Institute's numbers. I look at below ground supply versus the above ground supply. And obviously, those numbers aren't spot on. But when you look at the history of how much is mined per year and how silver is a byproduct and how much we're going to need, gives you an idea. When I'm covering an article from the US Mint saying that they literally ran out of silver and they are having an extremely hard time finding silver blanks because the silver shortage, word for word, the silver shortage, I'm going to take that for what it is. When I'm looking at all of these different factors, the Perth Mint, Royal Mint having to recycle their silver now out of cell phones and laptops they're collecting because they can't find any silver. When I'm looking at all that, you have to think realistically and logically. When people try to say it's a myth, they're going off of this mysterious COMEX not having to play into this shortage type of, it's a theory. I'm a realist. I look at the data. So anyways, there's another article that came out. The US Mint is in hot water legally, actually, from the silver shortage. They are non-compliant with keeping up to the price and being able to produce these coins. They had to stop the 2022 Morgan and Peace dollars being made this year to, what did they say, to focus their attention on silver to meet the customer's best needs or something. And that's straight from the silver shortage. We can read this article. This is the one that I covered last week, where the U.S. Mint announced that it would not strike 2022 dated Morgan and Peace dollars as it was experiencing difficulty in coming up with adequate supply of silver planchets. And the Mint is being blamed for not providing as many coins and quantities or qualities of the secretary determining they're sufficient to meet public demand. So it's because it is constrained in how much they can pay for the physical silver. That's where we get into the messy part. See, to acquire Silver Eagles, 31 U.S. Code 5112F1 requires that the secretary shall sell the coins minted under the subsection E Silver Eagles to a public at price equal to the market value of the bullion at the time of sale, plus cost of minting, marketing, and distributing such coins, and that also includes labor, materials, dyes, use of machinery. That is expensive. Plus, when you incorporate premiums on top of this and distribution, remember, we're in a global situation, and now with UK, Ukraine and Russia, you could see how there's so many boundaries, border crossings, and then incorporate scarcity, boosting the premium, which is another reason you could tell that silver scarce, low supply, high demand. All this is finally having the after effect, the aftermath, and that is the US Mint being non-compliant. And when I say non-compliant, that's what they talk about. And here, effectively, the US Mint is prevented from complying with one statutory requirement to produce Silver Eagles sufficient enough to meet public demand, another statutory requirement that prohibits it from paying a price higher than the paper market price. And that's the most important part, right? So what that means is now, since the US Mint is trying to get away with this, or not get away, trying to find a way to make this, they have to go in front of Congress now. So what they're doing is asking for permission to basically be able to pay to make some type of profit, because right now, and that proves that the silver shortage, or that silver, not silver shortage, it proves that silver is worth more than it is right now, that $25 is much less than silver's true value. And if you want to try to debate that, then click off this video and don't ever invest, because that means you don't understand the value of the dollar, and it means you don't understand the value of silver. Two very dangerous things to be oblivious to, or I guess closed-minded to. But anyways, the point I'm making this video is that, because I already made a video over this first article diving deep, and I broke this down much deeper. I just talked about a tenth of what I really did. I just wanted to highlight this because they just posted another article stepping off of, or branching off of that first article. So the first one they said was talking about the legal stuff being non-compliant, and now they just made one where it's talking about the explanation of this. They even say last week's column about the U.S. Mint's difficulty in sourcing sufficient silver, which they're talking about this one. So now we're picking up, is to meet public demand for 2022 dated Morgan and Peace dollars. And that's also Eagles that drew a large number of great comments and questions. U.S. Mint sold 5 million Eagles in the first month of January. That's insane. Perhaps the most frequent suggestion offered is how the U.S. Mint could obtain sufficient silver, and how would they be able to purchase this silver or obtain it to purchase the commodity market on the LBMA, or the London Bullion Market Association, or even the COMEX. Hold them to maturity, then request physical delivery of the silver. Absent any additional information, this would seem to be a straightforward solution. Unfortunately, the ways of the real world keep this from being a practical idea. And that's kind of what I was also talking about, when we could go back and forth all day, and that's because there's so many different things that we could talk about. You can make some really good points. You might even be correct on some of those points, but there's also all these other points, and a lot of people that are closed-minded, they'll look at their points that they know is right, and they might be right on some, and they won't look at anything else because that's what they know. But they won't incorporate A, B, C, D, E, F, G. They won't incorporate that. See, open-mindedness, you have to look at all of it. You have to acknowledge, yeah, that's some good points, but then you still have to look at your side and their side. You can't just say, oh, I'm right because I know this, so it doesn't matter what you say. There are some good points, but when you look realistically, there's no possible way we are going to be able to make a new green revolution with the amount of silver we have above ground and what's left below ground. We need way too much. We are already having a hard time in the Green New Deal, the electric vehicles, the 5G towers, silver lithium-ion battery. None of that's even started yet. That's in the next 10, 20 years. And there's already starting to become a shortage. And if you don't believe me, tell me why there's a $15 premium on Eagles, because it's scarce. There's no premium on gold, premium on silver. But anyways, when the federal legislation created the gold and silver Eagle coin program in the mid-1980s, the Mint was directed to first obtain physical metals from American mining operations. If those supplies proved insufficient, and they were, especially for gold, the Mint was allowed to purchase those bars off commodity exchanges. And this is another thing they mentioned in the other article. Private mints like Sunshine Mint and all those, they're fine because they can do what they want. The U.S. Mint, though, they have to abide by certain regulations, and that's why they have to go in front of Congress to ask for permission. These other mints, though, they have a pass. So that's why you're going to see places like Sunshine Mint and other private mints, they're not going to run out of silver or have nowhere near as hard of a time finding these silver blanks to make these rounds and coins as the U.S. Mint, the Perth Mint, the Royal Mint. And that's also why you've heard Perth Mint and Royal Mint having 300% increase in sales last year, having to recycle silver out of cell phones and laptops, which I think is going to start to become a much bigger thing, silver recycling. But that's also why you're seeing that. It's because mints in private mints or private companies are much different and have much different rules to abide by. So the Mint was allowed to purchase bars off the commodity exchanges by purchasing contracts and holding them to the maturity to request delivery. And that's, if you don't know what that means, on the COMEX, if you buy silver, let's say you have a contract or whatever, and it's an ounce of silver, you could turn that ounce of silver into physical delivery. Now, I would say 9 times out of 10, but it's actually even less likely than that. Most people don't ever turn the contract in. They let the contract go through. If everyone tried on the COMEX tried to turn those contracts into physical delivery, the silver shortage would be exposed because there's not that much silver. All those people that think they theoretically own that silver on there, that's not theirs. You know, every ounce of silver you have in your backyard 2 feet deep in the ground, or in your safety deposit box or your safe or whatever, 100 other people theoretically own that same coin. But the only person that actually owns that is the one that holds it. And that's why we say, if you can't hold it, you don't own it. Because other people own a whole bunch of silver, but it's just in thin air. but they don't go through with the contract anyways. And actually, what's crazy is the Hunt brothers, when they cornered the silver market in 1980, they owned up to 77% of the global silver supply. And no, that wasn't 17, that was 77%. This is what they tried to do. And it was mainly on the COMEX stuff. They tried to turn all of that silver into physical delivery. What do you think the government did? They made a rule on the spot and banned silver. Silver Rule 7. You couldn't buy silver anywhere. They banned silver. They banned the act of buying silver. You couldn't buy on the COMEX, couldn't buy from coin dealers. All you could do was sell it. And you couldn't sell it to friends. You had to sell it to the government. That's why in 1980, the Hunt brothers pushed the price of silver from $50. Then it shot back down to $9. It was $50 because they created a silver shortage. They literally cornered the market, kind of like Wall Street Silver tried to do last year. They bought up all the silver. They own 77% of the global silver supply, which it's not going to function because they still needed silver back then. And they held it. And the government banned it, which led to Silver Thursday when the price dropped 50% in less than 24 hours on a Thursday. But anyways, that's just pretty crazy to think about when you're talking about contracts on the COMEX that most people don't turn them into physical delivery. But anyways, annual silver eagle minted from 1986-2000 ranged from 3 million ounces to 11 million in 1987, but you've seen up to 30 or 40 million back in about 2016, 30 million, and then recently it's been around 13 million. It's been very low the last couple of years. 2019 on, we've been in the teens, and they're still having a hard time. They ran out of eagles last year, or 2020, literally ran out of eagles, had to make an emergency 1 million mintage supply from the San Francisco Mint. And we're talking about 11, 12 million ounces they couldn't come up with, which is insane to think about. And they already sold 5 million ounces the first month of January. So imagine they sold 5 million ounces the first month of January, but they ran out of silver trying to cover an annual mintage of 13 million ounces. That's shocking. And I think this year is when we're really going to start to see the silver shortage surface and expose itself where you can't argue it. I mean, if a U.S. Mint is coming out and saying there's a silver shortage, how are you going to debate that? When the Silver Institute posts their numbers, how can you debate that? How can you debate any of this? Anyways, I'm going to wrap this video up here. If you did enjoy this video, make sure to hit the like button. I'm also doing my giveaway soon. My studio is not set up. I just moved in here yesterday. I don't even have my office desk. I have nothing set up yet. So this is ghetto rigged. I'm using a box as a mouse pad and a bar stool as my seat right now. Like, this is so ghetto, but I love making videos, and I'm not gonna not make a video, so I just set something up so I can record. I don't get internet till the 14th, so I'm also recording this off of my cell phone hotspot. It's gonna work out though. Make sure you like that video just for the simple fact that I'm struggling right now trying to do this, but I love you all. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure to hit the like button. This was Silver Slayer. I'll see you guys soon. Peace.